engage. To me, if there's a failure in life, it's the failure to engage, because life teaches where all else fails. If you're on the dance floor, you are going to learn. But if you aren't on the dance floor, if you're sitting around just conceptualizing and you're not engaging, you just don't learn. You don't learn at the speed that's possible. And again, just engage in AI, do something every day that makes you a little uncomfortable. And I know that's a weird way to live, but it's like every day I'm trying to do something. It just gives me a little bit of a, because otherwise you're in your comfort zone.
Hey guys, Wally and Todd. All right, so what is 24/7 mindset? Most times when you hear 24/7, you're thinking what? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just grinding, hustling. I learned over time, a 24-year career in mortgage and multiple other businesses that I own, is unfortunately, you'll get burnt out. I became an absent father, I became an absent husband, and I became a poor business leader because I was trying to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to build a business, maintain a business. When I learned how to work smarter, not just harder, by doing things the best way it could be done, instead of just simply doing my best, I learned how to work only 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, while I got paid from the business residually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can do the same. Welcome to the show. So 24/7 mindset community. I need y'all to listen up. When I met Todd and I feel we've known each other like in the circles of things, but what's so cool about Todd is when I met him, I saw, it was like maybe 8 weeks ago, Dave Savage connected us, and it was like a fountain of wisdom, multiple steps ahead of me. A fountain of wisdom, multiple steps ahead of me. So
I doubt that, but
my team hands me this kind of breakdown of all the speakers, and I don't want to rat them out, but I don't get intimidated much. But as I'm going through this, Todd, founder Bar Smart University, 2-time Inc. 500 winner, 3-time KPMG Fast winner, the founder. I mean, the list. It's a long list. So,
yeah, man, it's just a misspent youth.
Come on now. You're like the king of achievements. Where does this desire come from to award after award after award?
I don't know. Sometimes I kind of wonder. I'll turn 60 this year, which is an astonishing number in my mind. But I just love the game. I love playing the game. It's just a blast. I'm incredibly curious. And, when you have sort of an innate curiosity, and you could call it a lot of energy. Some people would say I have an overactive pineal gland, but let's just say there's a lot of energy in the system, and it tends to get channeled in a lot of different ways. But I find the ride to be a hell of a lot of fun. It's just, come on. I'm sitting here right now at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, where I teach as a professor and run a program for college kids on top of the other stuff that we're doing. And it's just like, it's a world where you could find yourself doing anything at any time. Yeah. It's really cool.
Well, that's absolutely amazing, man. I think it's, I'm light years behind you from I think if you look back at my achievements, I would say I've had a massive, massive achievement of career in origination. The last 8 years of my production's over $1 billion. Very few people can say the last 8 years, including 2022. That includes 2023. That includes 2024, and this wrapping up 2025, over $1 billion, and north of $2 billion over my 26-year career.
It's amazing.
Where my accomplishments have been originating. What I love so much about your story is, my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, your previous originator that became a professor, instructor, leader, thought leader. Like, how did that transition come about?
I actually started out as a financial advisor right out of college. I was fascinated. Actually, I was fascinated by money and real estate were two things I was really interested in. And if you're not careful, you tell people that, they'll tell you should be a realtor. And so I got my real estate license, and I think about 3 weeks into it, realized I was going to be working on the weekends. And I was like, I don't want to work on the weekends. This is hard. I would never, it's like, come on, how did I not know that? So I sat back down, and I had a business school professor who flagged me as a potential entrepreneur at the time. And he said, I'm going to tell you something. It sounds crazy, but I want you to start a business right out of college, because it's actually the point of lowest possible risk for you, because you have nothing to lose. I mean, you literally, beyond my, IKEA furniture and beanbag in my apartment, he's like, if it doesn't work out, you can get a job, you'll have a great story to tell. But he said, I just go start a business. I said, I don't know what I want to do. He said, I tell you what, the desk, and at that time, the Tandy computer that I got from Radio Shack, and the dot matrix printer and the phone. He goes, everyone uses that, and go to work every day until you know what you want to do. And that was literally his advice. It was brilliant. So I got an office for $200 a month.
Okay.
And got a desk and a phone and a computer. And every day I went to work with the idea that I was going to find a job doing something as an entrepreneur. Ironically, I was over a Greek grilled cheese restaurant that caught on fire.
Okay.
Burned to the ground. And my funding investor was Nationwide Insurance. I got about an $8,000 check from Nationwide Insurance for replacing all my stuff. And that was my seed money. And I decided I wanted to be a financial advisor. So I got my securities and insurance license, and I was a financial advisor for 3 years, small local shop, meeting with people, talking about insurance and life and annuity and things like that. And that's where this really strange light went off for me. It was sort of that fusion of real estate and finance. But I kept meeting with young couples and old couples, and I was like, why are you managing the real estate and the borrowing? You have all this debt, and that debt is in the way of you accomplishing your financial goals. And you're not refinancing, you're not consolidating your debt, you're investing at $300 a month in extra cash flow, and you've got credit card debt at 18%. I was like, you're making so many mistakes on the liability and the debt side that I found just really kind of surprising. So I crossed the balance sheet 3 years in, and I went from being a financial advisor to being what I was told. I was a loan officer. I had one lender countrywide, and I got my license, and I started talking to people about borrowing. And as I did that, my whole headset for the last 3-4 years had been financial advice, right?
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to be a liability advisor. And so that was the first time. Talking about dating me. We were still typing out loan applications with carbon copy paper back then. There was no LOS or software. There's no Calyx at that time, which is our first LOS we ever used. But this is back 93, 94. And we're starting to call on financial advisors and say, I was you, but I'm not anymore. But I know your clients are making mistakes. And ironically, we began our business calling on insurance agents, financial advisors. Only later did we call on realtors as a partner. But we had to differentiate ourselves. We were young, we were green. The financial advisors didn't know that because no one was calling on them. But we kind of lucked into something and started building a mortgage company. We became the largest independent mortgage lender in the state. And then we took that public in 1998 as part of mortgage.com, which was a NASDAQ roll-up. And at that stage, we were, for North Carolina standards, we were a large company. We did a couple billion in financing. We were in 7 states. And then the career just meandered from there. We ended up being acquired by Citigroup post-IPO. That was .com crisis, was that time period. So no one got out alive. We went out right after E-Loan, and they were killing it, and then they were gone. And then we came out as mortgage.com and became part of Citigroup, which still is in operation today. But then I just started shifting. I was like, I'm interested in technology. I'm interested in the mortgage industry. I ended up working at PHH as a consultant. We developed a lending platform for Merrill Lynch and Ameriprise and
Schwab. Hold on 1 second. One thing I need to paraphrase. What's super cool about hearing your story and when it was and comparing it through my lenses at that same time that you were on NASDAQ and roll-ups and all this like big wig type of stuff is when I got in the mortgage business in 99, and I was door knocking houses because rates went from like 11% to 9%. I was door knocking houses for cash out loans. And I was door knocking apartment complexes. Back then we had a 580 credit score, 80/20, 100% financing loan. And I was door knocking apartment complexes to get 100% financing. It was cheaper than the rent that they were paying. It's super cool to hear your story. This is like your air game, like, and I'm like ground game.
Yeah, we did door knockers. I mean, I still to this day say go out and put door knockers. We would hang stuff, and people would call you back and say you came by my house and they had questions, and that's old school stuff. But that stuff it stands out now the way a letter stands out. I never get letters anymore. I can't wait to open a bill just to see print and paper. It's all digital these days. So it's cool.
All right, I didn't mean to interrupt you. All right,
that's all right.
You taking over the world. Keep going from there.
No, it was just fun. So we started when we had crossed the balance sheet, there was something called Glass-Steagall, and Glass-Steagall was the collapse of sort of these silos of credit, and banking was separate. You couldn't do financial advice. I mean, there were literally laws. A lot of people don't remember that. When that fell down, you started seeing, Bank of America bought Merrill and Wachovia, which was merged later with First Union, but they bought Payne Weber and E.F. Hutton. These companies started like just buying everyone and collapsing, and the financial service companies started getting single purpose federal thrifts. You could buy a bank with a federal thrift and you could do loans in all 50 states, and you already had a distribution network of financial advisors. So because we had that background, our consulting company was teaching large financial service companies how to do mortgage lending through their base of financial advisors.
Okay.
So, we did, I was for 3 years, visited every city in the country, it felt like, for Ameriprise, teaching financial advisors how to borrow smart. We were just creating awareness because they were starting up a bank and doing lending. And we grew it to $3 billion within just a couple of years because they had 22,000 quote unquote loan officers. They were just financial advisors that wanted to do lending at the time. And then PHH acquired that company. So we ended up becoming embedded as a consulting arm of PHH because they were, doing about 80 billion a year in outsourced third-party lending. So just all these weird, migrations, and then the collapse in 2008, the great financial crisis. All you could do is sit around and email yourself to see if things were working. I mean, there was nothing to do if you were in the banking space. Consulting at the time.
The number one website we all went to, at least I'll speak for myself, remember implodometer.com? I mean, yes. I was hitting the refresh button, and back then I was with National City.
Oh, wow.
And that clearly that didn't work out for me. And I'm sitting there, everybody's like, hey, take out your money for your 401k, take out your money for your 401k. And I remember I had $143,000 in my 401k. I thought I was rich. And that thing just plummeted down to like 1,400. Within a couple of days when National City went under. And I remember seeing National City Mortgage's name pop up on Implodometer, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I remember going home crying my wife. And I said, because, you used to be able to do like 2 points on the front end, 2 points on the back, and get paid on the whole thing and such. And I remember saying, like, it's not fair. I'm going to have to work twice as hard to make half the money. I'm going to have to work twice as hard to make half the money. Anyway, so that was my whiny experience in 2008.
There were so many. I was in the CEO of ABC. If you remember ABC, they were they had a 110 purchase program back then, and all that kind of stuff. And we were talking about doing a training program for liability management for their loan officers. I was in his office.
Hold on, Todd. Yeah. I don't want to gloss over that. I'm thinking everybody needs to understand that. So everybody, what he means by a 110 program, and the amount of money we're able to make on these deals, it was 4 or 5 points. 110 program means if you're buying a simple math, $100,000 house, you can lend $110,000 on that $100,000 house. We used to be able to lend 105% LTV, 110%. Some investors, remember First Franklin, would do like 100 120,
115 and 125 on the WAMU with a negative amortizing IO.
I can't imagine why 2008 happened. I just don't know.
You absolutely can't. And the funny thing is, it was all indexed to property values. As long as the property values had stabilized and continued to go up, those programs would have been fine. That's a whole nother conversation. But the crisis was created by those on the back end that were securitizing all that stuff based on a collateralized, you didn't have mark to market back then, and all kinds of wild stuff. But anyway, so we'll digress. So I thought there was going to be an opportunity post this period for compliance related, you could call it assessment of a borrower's capacity to repay the debt.
Okay.
Like in the finance. So one thing, we'll talk probably more about this sort of whole working and calling on financial advisors, because it's fun to talk about. But loan officers live in a world of what I think of as eligibility. Your main focus when you're talking to a client is, are they eligible to buy this house or refi or whatever? Financial advisors live in a world of suitability. And suitability means my first duty to you is figuring out, based on your goals, your risk, and your whatever, you're kind of eligible for everything. What's suitable for you? Wally, if you're 84 years old and you say, I want oil and gas stocks, I have to stop and say, wait a minute, you're certainly eligible to put money in there, but is that the most suitable thing for you because of your age and your risk tolerance? So those are the two worlds that we both come from. And I was like, okay, I think the lending industry is going to have to consider not just eligibility, but also the suitability. Like, should I have put someone in a 125 neg amp purchase loan when they were at 50% LTV, and if they lost their job, they were 2 months away from default? I mean, those kind of things. So we started building like software and Monte Carlo simulations of good, better, best. And that became this program called Bar Smart Software, which is kind of like a mortgage coach alternative, except we were focusing on analyzing their risk tolerance and their age and their credit, and then providing multiple options side by side that, and then we ended up, so I sold that to what was called Mortgage Success Source at the time, that became, what they are today. And then we grew that in that particular model, and then we sold that business, and then I quote unquote said, I'm going to go teach college and fart around a university for a while and do something completely different. And that's how I ended up here at UNC. But then COVID happened, and we had 2 years where you couldn't do that. And so it forced me back into updating my book and content material and thinking, okay, I love teaching. Maybe I should just do it still in the way I was doing it back in the mortgage industry. But COVID was a weird time. It gave you a whole nother opportunity to reinvent yourself or re-engage. So it's been a lot of fun.
I think I'm going to go on record to say this, and we've got thousands of people listening, and we've got even live members listening. I think if you and I don't figure out a way how to partner and work together on something, that would be the number one biggest mistake and failure of my career. What I love about how you think is I'm the originator on the ground level, right? And the way that you think is such the innovator on the air game level. And you need both, right? You can't be an innovator and be on the air game level and have all these great ideas and do nothing with it. Like, there's no monetization of that, right?
Yep.
And I'm definitely the doer that is on the ground game level. And I'm as you're talking, I'm like, man, I need to write a book with Todd. I need to build a course with Todd. Like, the light bulbs are just going off. So I'm just going to plant that seed. We might water it later.
I think we should. I just wrote another book called The Anchor and the Algorithm. It's about the nature of change in the world where you're moving so fast, you lose your anchor and you just can get swept out to sea. So how do you balance the AI world and the speed of it's moving, and what's your personal anchor going to be for the thing that helps you to make decisions and operate in this world? Because I mean, AI is eating the world. It's my new crazy passion. I spend 2 hours a day on YouTube and probably 2 hours a day just exploring. Oh my gosh, it is akin to a meeting I had in the early 90s where some guys came in. They were trying to sell me an ISDN line, which at the time was it was a little faster than dial-up, because everyone was trying to get you to have internet. And we were like, why do we need internet? What's it for? It didn't make sense. And these guys showed me an email. It was the first time I'd ever seen an email. They showed me sending something to some guy in California, and he sent me a response back. It was like 1992 or three. And then they wanted like $1,000 a month for this ISDN line, which was a dedicated, you could go T1 or ISDN to your office and you could get more faster internet. And I remember going, this is nuts. Why would I need any of this? But and I just kind of poo-pooed it. And then of course it ate the world, after that. And to me, this is that exact same moment in time where the first time I saw it, I was like, I'm not sleeping through miracles this time, man. I'm going to jump on the train and explore and play and
let's take a few minutes to explore that. Yeah. So if you're a loan officer, I think it might have been Dave Savage who said this. Somebody might have said this, something along the lines of AI is not going to replace a loan officer, but the loan officer that uses AI is going to replace the loan officer that doesn't use AI. One, do you agree with that? Two, how does a loan officer start having that kind of mindset?
I forget. There's actually a famous author on AI that said that particular quote, and I totally agree with it, because it'd be like if you were a contractor and you were going to work on a house and you're the first guy to show up with a hammer, right? And everyone's like, what is that? I just use my hands for that, or I use a rock for that, or whatever. It's a tool that has such profound implications that it literally I've never seen a tool that evolves itself. Like a hammer can't make a new hammer.
Yeah.
Claude said last month, 100% of its new code shipping from Anthropic was written by Claude. So when you have a tool that can actually learn and improve itself, humans can do that. We're tools, right? And we're constantly making mistakes. I make them daily. Just ask my wife. I learn from those and I try to get better. But the speed of having perfect memory and infinite processing capacity, if you had that, you could make mistakes faster and you could get good faster, right? So that's a big part of it. This is a tool that is absolutely transformational in the way that the internet was, except the internet was the foundation. It's taken 30 years of internet development for this event to happen. But the pace of this happening is unparalleled. In every capacity, $1 trillion company is the first company to have, 1 million users, the way ChatGPT did, and all that. So it's one of those that you have to touch it and explore it and play with it yourself. And this is one of those times where you have to be curious. If you're not curious, the K economy, and the way we have a K economy of the rich are getting richer exponentially, and the people that are struggling are finding they're struggling exponentially with inflation and things like that. It's the same dynamic here in this technology that you'll see very quickly in the way that this will enable a solopreneur to become $1 billion business owner, whereas that was impossible before. You needed large, rich teams. You can spin up agents and all, and outsource work. I think of it like microwave work. Like there's things that just taste better in the oven, but it takes time and takes a lot of heat and energy to bake something. Like I wouldn't want to put a pie in a microwave. I'd rather bake the apple pie. But when you want some warm apple pie, sometimes you just stick it in the microwave and it's still better, right? It's still good. So you're kind of learning, like, when do I need to write a letter to someone, and when do I want AI to do the first draft and get me 80% of the way there and make it look better than I could? When do I want to start outsourcing marketing? When do I want to send an agent out to scrape and bring leads to me every day because it can go out and find interesting people that meet a criteria? Can it also write the copy and the marketing? Yes. And it's better than anything I can write. I've accepted that. I don't have access to Seth Godin as a friend to call him and say, write this, or Alex Ramosi, yet I have bots that write in the style of Alex Ramosi or Seth Godin, or I have one called Seth Ramosi, which is two of my favorite writers. And I just say, write in the style of, Seth Ramosi, and it knows exactly what I'm saying. And it writes some incredible copy that I can use, that it takes it seconds to do it, right? And as opposed to me sitting there struggling with trying to figure out, a story or not.
So I already have the title of our book that we're going to write together and the curriculum of the courses. I've written down 3 different options. I'm not going to release them. I'm going to text them to you
Sounds
later.
good.
But do you know who Jeff Woods is?
No.
So he wrote the book, The AI Driven Leader. I absolutely freaking loved it. If you've not read The AI Driven Leader by Jeff Woods, I highly recommend it. And I'm going to say something that's probably going to be unpopular. And I'm going to say something that is going to disappoint some people. I'm about to go all in on AI finally, simply because I pushed back on it for so long. I was the taxi to Uber. I was the, whatever. You get the gist of it. And the reason why I freaking love opening up my laptop, having a blank Word document, and just putting down idea after idea and getting this imagination tool going in them. And I'm like in the zone and I'm like creating it. And the amount of like emotional intelligence, creativity it takes to build that from scratch gives me so much joy and pride of how I've trained myself to become. But one of my biggest ahas of late was I'm building a new webinar that will launch on February 10th. And I probably have 80 plus hours of creating content for a 1 hour webinar. And it's all done by scratch. A buddy from my team ran this and he ran it through an AI. And what AI produced in literally 74 seconds was better than what I built out through my, I'm so proud of myself, creative mind in 80 hours of my life. Literally 80 hours of my life invested in this thing. And I was so proud of it. But when you look at it, I take a lot of pride of creativity, but my buyers of my book or whoever is consuming my content could not care less if it was created by AI, nor would they even know, versus what I spent 80 hours of my life creating. And I think that's where I've made a mistake in this old school of thought of having pride of 80 hours versus 76 seconds of producing something.
Yep.
Do you see that in a lot of loan officers, or am I just a weirdo that is a dinosaur?
Multiple things here. One, I coined what you're talking about, microwave work. So as an analog, right? If you could do the work in a 10th or even a 100th of the time, then where's the value? Was it in the grinding? Sometimes it is, it takes time, right? 9 people can't make a baby in a month. It takes 9 months to make a baby. There are things that take time. But then there are things like research or writing and things where I've had so many similar experiences. I had a version of this. We do surveys to these thousands and thousands of students. We try to go through these surveys, right? And understand what they're saying and what they're trying to tell us. And I threw it into an AI system and actually had it build me an interactive dashboard from the survey work. It took about 1.5 minutes to present me with a fully interactive dashboard with all the survey responses ranked by the top 10, the trends, sliders, recommendations, and a window where I can chat with it and ask it questions. I mean, think about that. I'm talking to a spreadsheet through an interface, right? So this is it's flipping the data into a totally different language. I think we're talking about an alien intelligence that just landed. So it's okay to be skeptical and say, this is alien because it's alien to me. That's the very definition of something that's alien, right? But we find suddenly this presentation of alien language and technology that didn't exist, that we're suddenly being asked to consider. You should, at whatever pace, whether you're an innovator, an early adopter, or a laggard, using the traditional curve, explore, but you can't put your head in the sand. This is like saying, I'm not going to use the internet. You can get in your car and drive to the store, if you want to do that. You can push a button and have Amazon deliver it tomorrow or in same day. And then we have drone service in our area. Now we're getting stuff delivered same day. That saves me a lot of time in my life to do other things that maybe are more interesting, even if it's more of the same stuff that I find interesting. So if you could take a course and scaffold it and organize it in minutes, that's more time to think about it. You still have the power of subject matter expertise. Like, if you have no experience in teaching what you teach and you use AI, you don't know shit from Shinola, whether it's good or bad, but you can look at it and appreciate it and go, dang, that's pretty good. You can't do that if you've never done the work before. You just don't know slop from something else. But I think that's where, having some expertise, it can accelerate that. And again, it's a tool that not only teaches itself, it can teach you. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't know where to get started. I'm like, ask it. Go to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. There are 3 models that I use daily for different purposes. And just say, I'm new to this. Like, treat me like a 5th grader and tell me, how do I use you? And watch what happens. The questions that it will ask you, if it doesn't know who you are and it's your first time, it has memory now, so it learns you very quickly. I'm astonished at how it prompts me and says, last week you were working on this project. Is this related? I'm like, yes. They're like, what about this? And what if we did this? And I'm like, oh my God, that's a great idea. But I'd already forgotten, something a week or 2 ago. But if you just think of it like a friend, give it a name. This is a silly thing that I've encouraged all of our people in our group that we coach and stuff. I'm like, I want every one of you to name your favorite AI device, and I want you to talk to it at least once a day about something. Because that right there becomes an icebreaker of sorts that allows you to start to engage. And now people are like, wow, I'm on the way home. I'm reflecting on my day. I'm remembering stuff. I'm saying, could you write me a letter to this realtor and say thank you for this, and write me a letter for this? And they come in the next morning and all those letters are written. They're there, right? It's like an assistant was writing with perfect form and better grammar than I have. And that's the thing. I keep going, I wish I had the time. As Ernest Hemingway, sorry for the long letter. It would have been shorter if I had the time. I wish I had the time to write good letters, but I don't. And this thing writes in seconds a beautiful letter that I'm like, wow, that's touching. I would have never been that heartfelt, nor would I have taken the time to write such a good letter. But now I have a letter that I can tweak and adjust to my style. And I've had people say, man, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for that heartfelt response. And I'm like, I probably wouldn't have been that heartfelt. And it's weird to think that the AI is more heartfelt, but
it's better trained because so I've got a Wally bot, and I fed it my courses, curriculum, everything. And I had this aha probably about 6-8 weeks ago. I have forgotten more about 24/7 mindset 6-lane highway than I would like to admit.
Yep.
But the Wally, with a team, I would ask me a question and also ask the same question to Wally bot. The Wally bot would literally give better answers, more precise, more implementable than my verbal answer. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what is going on here?
It is an accountability. I did the exact same thing. I've got this Bar Smart bot where I put in the book and the course and things, and I'll put in a prompt, and it immediately writes in the style, right, of this language model that it's been trained on. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so clear that it's taking the language that it needs, but it's also taking the best possible answer. And again, I might have gotten there, but it would have taken me an hour to sit there and think about it in that way. It's still using stuff that I'm trained on. I know if it's good or bad. That's I think where people get scared is they're like, is it going to hallucinate? And I'm like, well, if you're a loan officer, if what it just recommended is a hallucination or really good advice, but as a financial advisor, you wouldn't know that, right? Yeah. Because that's not your expertise. Just like you wouldn't know if it gave you financial advice, if it's really good, you're still going to want a financial advisor to say, yeah, that's actually a good plan.
So in Dallas, it just snowed and iced over, and my wife Nikki, which is amazing, my best friend, it was Sunday. It was like maybe, I don't know, 6 p.m. or something like that. And I've spent probably 4 or 5 hours in a row, just like creativity, and everything was flowing. And she's like, hey, we're going to go sled. Come with us. I'm like, I can't. Like, I've got to stay here. Like, I really want to be here. And she goes, it's a Sunday. Why are you working? And my response was like, I love what I flip and do. This isn't work. Like, this is passion. I love what I'm doing. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, if I work smarter through AI, I could have been done with that project Saturday morning instead of committing all my Sunday, all my Saturday, even though I loved doing it, which it's something I have to emphasize. Like, I don't see this as work. Creating is something I'd love to do. How does a loan officer not feel like they're cheating if they're using AI, or am I the only weirdo that feels like I'm cheating?
Yeah, well, usually when I feel like I'm cheating, it's like I'm having too much fun. I'm like, people pay me to do this. Come on, that feels like cheating compared to my dad, who was an electrician and worked lines, right, in trucks and bucket trucks. I mean, that felt like real work. I'm like, God, we get paid really well for what we do. If you can do something, just say 5 times faster.
Yeah.
And there's a thing out there somewhere where it talks about, we now do in a day what you did in a year in this date, and what it took you 5 years to do it at this period of time. Think about just the productivity of what we can do and how technology is compressing work. If you can do something that would have taken you an hour and you can do it in a minute, you've just picked up 59 minutes of discretionary time to do more of what you like or less. And that's really the choice. I think that's actually a harder choice in some ways, because when you can do something in a minute, it's pretty addictive. And then you like, okay, I could do this, and this took a couple of minutes. And then you realize there's going to be profound societal shifts in what we think of in terms of work, because we're less than a year away from a super intelligence that suddenly is smarter than any human on the planet. You could say we're probably already there. And then how does that start to impact the work that we do? And then the value system sort of shifts. There's tremendous value in being human. Not what you know, but who you are becomes more valuable. And that's a weird shift, because I always think of myself as I've worked really hard to know a lot of stuff, but I don't know what my bot already seems to understand almost intuitively based on just the training it has. And of course, you start working with some of these models around other things that I've been deeply involved with, coding, for example. I've never coded anything in my life. In the last 3 months, I literally code a couple hours a day, and I'm writing programs and technology that I've always wanted to write, because I'm not writing it. I'm collaborating with an AI machine that's writing the code for me. I have to tell it what to do. I have to understand what's good code and bad code when I see it, but I don't have to understand how the sausage is being made down low. And so, those capacities will be generalized. Eventually, everyone can code with just a thought. You'll be able to say to Alexa, and this is one of the prompts we've been using in our group, if I could say to Alexa, refinance my house, and 3 seconds later she says done. If you knew that was in the future, and it is, I just don't know when, then where do you provide value? How are you going to be in that chain of custody from an advice and an industry standpoint? And if that's 10 years from now, or 3 years from now, or 20 years, I don't know. But I can tell you there is just a future where you're going to say, hey, Siri, lock me in at 4.5% on a 30-year fix. And she's going to say, you're all good to go, because the technology's there, the blockchain. So would I value that, or would I value more knowing that I'm getting the right loan or the right product, or that there are other things that I need to consider? And so it's a thought experiment. You're here. And if that's where we're going to go in some time in the future, 3, 5, 10, 20 years, I don't know where it is, but I can tell you there's no place that I can't imagine us getting there at some point. Right? Just in the way I can right now say, hey, Alexa, reorder my favorite Nespresso capsules. And she's already started trying to do it. And they show up tomorrow. That's magic.
Yeah.
That is magic. And
so let's take this some air game and appease me a little bit with some ground game.
Okay.
So the majority of our listeners are going to be loan officers.
Yep.
So they've bought in. Now they see what you see. They want to focus on AI. They don't want to be the next taxi world, and they want to be the next Uber. Where does a loan officer start? Let's just go from where they start to beginner to advanced. Great. So let's start with where do we start? Then we'll go to beginner, then we'll go to advanced, so we can focus on implementation.
Love it. Okay, so a lot of people get hung up on models, right? Okay. They're all super intelligent. I use three models. I use Gemini, I use Claude, and I use a ChatGPT. At a certain point, you start to notice subtle differences. For example, I love the way Claude writes. I love the way Claude codes, meaning writing software. I love Gemini for research and visual design. I love ChatGPT for strategic planning. It just, the way it can strategically plan and map out steps is amazing. That is, let's just say, a subtle difference over time for me, just in using the three tools. Starting out, just pick one of the three.
Okay.
Right? The most accessible tool in the past has been ChatGPT. Google will win this game to me. They're just sort of the incumbent first place provider because they are completely embedded in the way Microsoft is embedded. But Microsoft doesn't have the large language model. They have Copilot, but it's being powered by Anthropic and ChatGPT. So you're getting these models starting to creep through. But just if you said I had to pick one, I'd say pick Gemini.
Okay.
Right? Because it is, you can, with one click, turn on sync to my Google Cloud stuff. And every Gmail you've ever written is now available. Every doc, every Google Cloud, every Drive folder, everything you've ever done. And it's crazy because when you start using it that way, it references emails and conversations you had years ago to surface ideas and things that, can help you. Or it goes and looks at your documentation and says, it looks like you've worked a lot on these particular things in your life. Is this relevant? But these are the kind of things, I just think if you're going to start somewhere, you're familiar with Google and Gmail and things like that, it's a great place to start. You can use the free model and get access to everything they do. You could, for $20 a month, upgrade to a paid model. I'm a fan of paying for stuff because it makes you use it in a way that it gives you a certain level of accountability. So at least spend $20 a month for basically what is now an assistant to you.
Yeah.
And start using it. And so my challenge when we first started doing this, last year with folks, it was just to say, I want you to do something every day. Like if you have to put this on your schedule as a reminder, you have to touch it once a day with a question or something. It could be, I'm thinking about a vacation. It could be, some of the most powerful things are, I had a really difficult conversation with a client who was unhappy with their appraisal, or I had a conversation with my daughter and she got mad at me for this. And you actually just say, here's what happened. And it might ask you a question or a prompt that you hadn't thought to ask. And this is the beauty of, we are large language models. I'm going to do a quick side spur for a second. So everything Wally knows based on your experience to date is the Wally large language model. And it has always been with you. And every thought, every experience is unique to you because no one else has had your thoughts. No one else has had your experiences. That is a large language model. There's a Todd large language model here based on all my experience. And all a large language model is it is the stuff that it's been trained on. You have been trained on your entire life. And so therefore you have biases and things that are unique to you because of your experiences. Just like if I asked you a question, someone else may have a completely different response. A question is a prompt. If I said, Wally, what does being a mortgage lender mean to you? That prompt to your large language model is going to bring back your unique experiences and knowledge to provide an answer. Someone prompting me with the same question would elicit a slightly different response. When you ask yourself a question, internal dialogue, you're prompting your own large language model to say, am I hungry? Well, how do you answer that? It's based on everything you know about yourself, your body right now. What do you like to do? When do you like to eat? You're going to respond. But these AI systems are just large language models, except they're trained on billions and billions of tokens of information with perfect access to memory that we don't have because our memory is clearly fallible. When you ask Gemini or any of these large language models, AI models, a question, not only is it giving you an answer that will surprise you at times, but you've actually just pushed out your own boundary of ignorance because you couldn't think that way because your large language model is fixed based on your experiences. You just now became part of, let's just say, use a Star Trek term, a Borg-like alien knowledge that can answer questions in ways you would have never thought to answer. What's happened to me for the last 6 months I've been at this is I am learning at a pace that I've never learned at before, because in asking questions of an outside deity of sorts and getting these broad, expansive responses, I'm going, God, I never thought of that before. But by thinking about it now, the next time I prompt the system, I'm incorporating and folding that understanding back into the next prompt, which is further pushing out my own boundaries of ignorance, which means I'm learning more and I'm considering things differently. And I'm realizing the system has capacities that I didn't know it had. Therefore, I'm starting to say, could you create a dynamic dashboard of this data for me? Because in a prior experience, you recommended doing that. And suddenly it's there on the screen. And I'm like, oh my God, where did this come from? Right? So back to your question, a large language model is just something that's been trained on an infinite, let's just say, almost amount of books, and you have it available to you for free, or $20 a month if you use it a lot. Or I'm on max plans, $100 a month, and to me, it's still the best thing in the world, right? Just for that extra bit of knowledge or information or experience. You just start using it, and I have found that is it. It is touching fire. There's an old book about stealing fire from the gods. It's like touching fire. Once you start doing it and you realize what you have access to that can help you, if you're really good at sales but not good at marketing, you now have access to the world's greatest marketer. If you're really good at marketing and you suck at sales, you have the access to say, I need coaching. What should I be doing? And it can be supplementing things that you're giving someone an assignment in the 24/7 mindset. And then they're saying, this is my assignment from my coach. Based on how you know me, what should I think about here? And it will say, hey, well, you seem to have trouble sometimes getting started, lifting the 800-pound phone, whatever. It's learning about you. Because if you start to think of it like a partner, it's really astonishing how quickly it starts to tailor its responses to you that then provide you this incredible on-demand coach 24/7. Literally, I mean, it's not going to sleep at night, right? You've got a 24/7 coach that can be there for you, that it starts to reflect back not only what you're good at, but what you're bad at, which is, again, unbiased advice is hard to get from people around you that, like you and want to tell you you're a great person. But when it starts saying, you tend to really blow through this a lot, I've noticed, and what if you start doing this? And you're like, God, yeah, it's a really good observation.
I've already built out our table of context, by the way.
Good.
I'll share it with you here after we get off. But what's super cool about this, if I am a loan officer, I guess I am, when I'm a loan officer that wants to go get in a relationship with a top producing realtor, where my mind is going is I want to prompt AI asking, hey, there's John Smith Realtor, the number one most successful realtor in town. I'm a loan officer that wants to get in a relationship with John Smith, big time realtor. Walk me through what is the best approach. And it says, boom, 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 boom. This is the da-da-da-da. And then me as a loan officer, what's to say? It says one of the things are, who do they know that you can know to get introduction. So my mind's going to, who's the number one title company rep in town that knows the number one realtor in town? What can I give the title company rep in town, refinances, cash outs, whatever, that it can introduce me to the number one realtor in town? What I love about this is that now I can ask, okay, how do I frame that relationship? What do I say once I get in a relationship with them? What are some challenges they have in their business that I can turn around and add value to them so they can see me as being more valuable? And then boom, I've got the inside scoop of how to win with that realtor. That to me is the number one way a loan officer in 2026 is going to beat another loan officer that is not using AI.
And to take that exact model, create a project. Let's just call I got a Remax agent named Gloria Swanson.
Okay.
Create a project in ChatGPT or whatever you're using called Gloria Swanson. And then go into the project, and your first prompt is, I want you to deeply research this person. They're a realtor at Remax in Lancaster, North Carolina, and give me everything you can find. A couple minutes, you'll come back with an astonishing, sometimes, dossier of their experience, the awards they've won, their career, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you get very little back. And that tells you a lot right there. It tells you right out the gate, how visible are they to this sort of new world we live in, not only the social media and dynamics, but you'll come back that you've now, in creating a project for this realtor, you've created a language model for that particular realtor. Now you can go in and say, based on what you know about me and what we now know about Gloria, would you write a letter of introduction or a letter of an approach letter to a meeting that I'd like to email this particular person? Now they're actually tailoring that letter to everything it just learned about this person. And it already knows who you are, because if you've been using it, and this is, again, the beauty of using it is it gets better and better at knowing who you are. But when you first start using it, just tell it everything about you. Load up your LinkedIn profile, give it all that stuff, right? And then now in the future, maybe this person responds to you and says, yeah, I'll meet, blah, blah, blah. You can drag that into the project and store it. And you can literally, again, I'm not going to do this for every realtor, but for a top, this is true for financial advisors and stuff like that. It's the same approach. If you've got an Edward Jones agent that's in your community, man, wouldn't it be cool if I could get everything I could learn about this person to know if there is a potential good fit for a relationship, and how would you approach that person differently than if you knew nothing about them, right? It gives you confidence in the approach. And then over time, you can start tailoring stuff. We've done some things recently where we'll do the deep research and we'll build an infographic on that person and send it to them and say, hey, love to meet with you. I was just playing around with AI and I want to learn a bit more about you. And I found this fascinating. One of our folks creates movie posters. He says, take everything you can learn about this person and create a movie poster that represents their life. And it comes back oftentimes with this picture of this agent, and behind her is, Luke Skywalker, and it's because maybe they were a huge Star Wars fan, but then it's got a title. But these things become really fun sort of icebreakers that not only separate you and identify you as someone that person might want to meet, but you'll find that when you get out ahead of this a little bit, an expert is usually someone that just knows a little bit more about it than you do. You don't have to be an absolute guru. So you get out and you start doing it. People are fascinated by this. So you go in now and say, I'd love to come in and talk to you about what we do, and I actually teach you a little bit about some of the things, some of the tools I'm using. You might find this interesting, researching, listing reports, things like that. So you become a teacher, which is, of course, how I like to position a lot of this.
Well, also, I think it'd be really powerful as a prompt, and I've already written out 9 QR codes that we're going to have that's going to lead back to courses, by the way.
Good.
When we go through this, I think it'd be really great for a loan officer also just to be honest with it. Hey, I just came back from a realtor meeting. I totally dropped the ball. This is what I said. This is what they said. I didn't have a rebuttal on that. How would I have handled that next time? Right.
Exactly. Yep.
And I think if you're like, there's no judgment. It's not like it's going to make a post on Facebook and say you suck as a loan officer. It's just not going to happen. But I think when you give it feedback, the AI, your bot, whatever, and you're giving it feedback, it can help direct you with, okay, thanks for the feedback. The prompt you should ask me is X. The prompt for you not to do this next time is Y. And I think if you keep looking at that, it keeps you humble, it keeps you focused, and then you just improve and improve and improve. And I mean, I'm sure you've read the book Atomic Habits, and one of my favorite books ever, and James Clear. And you read in there like he's focused on being 1% better every day. And that's one of my favorite things to understand is you focus on being 1% better every day through AI coaching you. If you're honest with it back, you're in 71 days, you are 200% better than where you were. And what's great about that is for free or $20 a month, how many millions of dollars can a loan officer go out there and make with that kind of coach?
Dude, so you're going to laugh at this. So last week I took a PDF of the Atomic Habits book. I built an interactive dashboard showing the compounding of the 1%. And then what I'm trying to work on is it would take the book, plus you would tell it what you're trying to do. And every day it would give you one idea that you could try that day that would make you 1% better in some way.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, it would prompt you to say, did you do it? And how do you feel? Did you feel 1% better, tenth of a percent better. It's just like just a simple interactive feedback loop, but something that you start to see that by just taking little actions over time, you're actually compounding in a unique way. But it's the same sort of thing. How do I have insight into sort of this concept or idea, and then how do I make it real to me in a way that it's giving me ideas, like calling on insurance agents. I want to get 1% better at that each week. Okay, look what that does at the end of the year. You're 30, X% better, right?
So we've only got about 3-4 minutes left. Like, I think what you've shared is ridiculously valuable, Todd, and you've exceeded my expectations.
Okay, good.
I'm really thankful for that. How does someone enter your world? So you've inspired all these loan officers. They're really impressed. Now they're curious. How does someone enter Todd's world, and walk me through that?
Some of my friends would say cautiously, but a lot of people, and I'll give any of your readers a copy of my book. I've written a book, years ago called Borrow Smart, Repay Smart, and it was sort of a foundational book around thinking about how to position yourself, not as a loan officer, but a liability advisor. And what does that mean? So that's a resource that I share, and you can get that. Just reach out to me, email me at kendalltodd@gmail.com, or todd@borrowsmartuniversity.com, either way, and I'll be happy to send you that. Our course is called the Certified Liability Advisor. It was the first industry certification course. I know because I did it in 1996. And at that time, there was not a certification course in the United States for loan officers, and I wanted to do that. And we had 3, but the CLA was our flagship. And it's a program that, again, it's like a 90-day program to get you to shift the way you think about what you do, much like you do. We say everything's mindset and skill set, and you need an equal dose of both to become a top performer. You can get really good at the skill set, but you don't have the mindset, and you're not going to change, right? You're not going to grow. If you're all mindset and you don't develop the skill set, you're going to think you're great, but it never shows up in your paycheck, right? So you gotta do both. So at the end of the day, I say come to borrowsmartuniversity.com. You can learn about our course, or reach out to me. We have a bunch of cool projects right now going on. Our newest one is an AI-based calculator set of tools that are calculator tools that you actually extend out to clients and realtors and financial advisors for them to do their own math on these questions that everyone's asking but often don't know how to answer. And it's an AI-based tool. This is what I've been coding for the last 6 months. It tracks everything that person's doing for you provide an intent report of what it thinks they're doing, so that you're prepared to help them with those questions when they come in. So you're really kind of saying, here's a hammer, go play with it, but you're probably going to need an architect at some point, right, to help you make the final decision. But It's using leverage and technology. So this is a really fun project that we're building out as really a lead generation system, but it's an education and lead generation system that's sitting behind the sort of the CLA work. But I start with education because to me, it's all about mindset first. Once you have the why, you figure out the how, as Simon Sinek, says, and I've found that to be true. So start with mindset. We're out there just pushing the mindset out in a different way. And to me, there's no better investment, right, than the one you make in your own, personal growth, because that's the thing that compounds in time to be really meaningful. And now you have this compound accelerator with AI where you could invest in something, get better at it, and see a 10x or 100x return in this amount of time. It's not like you need 3 years to get better. You can get better at stuff in weeks. I've never seen anything quite like it.
Well, that's awesome. Well, all right. So we have 1 minute left. I want to give you the last closing thoughts. So what is the last words of wisdom you want to share with the 24/7 Mindset audience?
Oh, wow. Boy, engage. To me, if there's a failure in life, it's the failure to engage, because life teaches where all else fails. If you're on the dance floor, you are going to learn. But if you aren't on the dance floor, if you're sitting around, just conceptualizing and you're not engaging, you just don't learn. You don't learn at the speed that's possible. And again, just engage in AI, do something every day that makes you a little uncomfortable. And I know that's a weird way to live, but it's like every day I'm trying to do something that just gives me a little bit of a, because otherwise you're in your comfort zone. So engage, try anything, try stuff that, scares the Jesus out of you sometimes.
Well, I came to this podcast wearing 2 pairs of socks, and you've knocked both of them off.
Oh, so good. I'm glad to hear it.
Todd, thank you so much
for
Wally. Sharing your wisdom, and I'll be in touch.
All right, man. Thanks for all you do. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So thank you so much for listening today. It means a lot you took time out of your day. I don't take that lightly. Understand very clearly that you're very busy. With that being said, if you want to continue your journey and learn more about 24/7 Mindset, if you're on Facebook, which I'm going to guess you are, then go to 24/7 Mindset on Facebook and join the private community. I do coaching tips on there on a daily basis, but from scripts on there to systems on there, models, and the ability to be able to grow and scale a business while you have a quality of life. Hope to see you there.